And we are live. Good evening, good people of the interwebs. John and I will talk today with you about domestic violence. It is a thing, it seems. And all of a sudden, it is becoming more and more prevalent because who thought that by forcing people to stay at home, certain things might not go well? But what's even funnier is that now, officially, mainstream media is finally acknowledging that there is a problem with male victims of domestic abuse. Now, it's not as if people were shouting on this since, the 1900s? I mean, what's her name? Pizzy? I always forget her first name.
Erin Pitsey.
Erin. Tried to get domestic violence shelters for men set up, 50 years ago? And look what it brought her. But now the BBC is finally admitting that...
Can I, and I hate to do this,
Go on.
in defense of the BBC, they've actually been covering male victims of female domestic violence for a couple of years.
They have. Well, I haven't noticed much of it, but then again...
No. Okay, so here's what happens. You'll get, even in quite mainstream shows, right?
Mm-hmm.
The guy who does the one show, Little Baldy Bloke, was in the one show, and he did a mainstream thing on it, right? Ludicrous says I'm a bit quiet.
No, he said you're a bit low. That's not the same thing.
Ha ha ha. It is exactly the same thing.
Well, it should be the same.
See, Michael Keller appreciates me being quiet. What a surprise.
And Michael, I already had Corona, but I had Corona at the beginning of the year in January, when officially Corona wasn't in the Netherlands yet.
But yeah, so here's the point, right? So, Dom, somebody or other did and it was a mainstream evening, so a reasonably prime time show discussing the whole issue of not only male victims of domestic violence, but how they are ignored, shamed, and, of the usual victim blaming, the thing feminists claim to really hate. And what do? Any man who has a problem gets victim blamed, of course.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, because it has to be men that are the problem.
And so you do have these little rays of light, shall we say, these matches in the darkness, shedding a bit of light onto what's being kept secret. But then the rest of the mainstream media goes right back to normal. And no, it's a gendered issue. And they just assert. As everyone knows, domestic violence is a gendered issue. Well, actually, no, they don't know anything because it's false. And only because you keep saying so.
Yeah. Yeah, well, apparently in 2 days prior, so that's 2 days before today. I should say the 24th, shouldn't I? A lot easier.
Just say 2 days ago.
2 days ago, fair enough. They are talking about how charities are dealing with men who suffer domestic abuse, and they have seen a jump of up to 60% during the lockdown. And the thing is, I'm not surprised.
And they have no services.
They have no service. Well, hardly any. There is
in London, right? In Greater London, which is about at least a sixth of the UK population, right?
Yeah.
There are 0 beds for male victims.
Yeah. There you have
Zero. And not just that, right? But many men who call a helpline are sent to an abuser program.
Mm-hmm.
They're treated as the abuser.
Yeah,
And
but that's the Duluth model.
If a woman is violent, right, a man has nowhere to take his kids to be safe.
No.
So he can't protect the kids.
And that's the worst part.
If he leaves, it's counted as abandonment, right?
Yeah.
So he loses. If he stays to shield them, no one's going to protect him.
And as soon as he raises his hand to protect his children, he's the attacker.
Well, unfortunately, and I'm not saying this is a female problem, right? It's an abuser problem. Abusers will often report first.
Yeah.
So they will report a false accusation against the victim as part of the abuse. But it is particularly common with women, apparently. And not just that, I heard just the other day, right? In divorce cases, right? I think this was in the UK. Lawyers are telling their female clients to provoke the man by any means they can.
Yeah.
So that, as I say, it doesn't have to be violence. If he shouts at her, oh, she feels threatened.
Yeah.
If a man hits the wall in frustration because he doesn't want to hit her, that's domestic violence.
Oh yeah, no, I had that. I had the situation with a colleague at work. Well, my previous job, where I had a conversation with a kid and the psychologist, and the psychologist was asking such stupid questions, and it totally escalated the situation. And then the kid threw a book at me, which was quite annoying, and the kid then stampeded off, and out of frustration, I hit the wall. I wasn't angry with the kid, I was angry with my colleague. I didn't focus my anger on her, I hit the wall once. Now, guess the story she brought forward a year later to Human Resources. Which is funny, because a year later, you know what they can do with it?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
But they're also not going to investigate that she brought it up.
No. But if someone makes a false accusation against you,
therefore it must
there
be
are
true.
there are jurisdictions which then automatically prevent you from making the proper claim against them because it's counted as revenge.
What do you mean, what am I doing when John is talking, Michael? I'm not quite sure what you mean, mate. Anyway, yeah, and it's quite annoying. But because we now see a lockdown of our social society, because funny enough, there is a very strong link. Men aren't talkative. Men often bear it for a while anyway. But because they have other things that they can focus on, work, sports, whatever.
And societal messaging which says women can't be violent, and when they are violent, it doesn't really hurt.
Well, that's not the thing I was going for now, even though that is part of the reality of male victims. Yeah,
I've seen videos.
John, let me please make my point. Yeah, and then because I agree with you that this is an issue, but the point I was trying to make is we're seeing it now more because there are no other things going on in the lives of most people, and because of that, we see a rise of domestic violence, especially against men. Funny enough, especially against men, because men do not have ways to escape it at the moment.
Yeah. But that's what makes it even more galling, because if a woman is, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen, I'm sure it does, right? But when a woman experiences domestic violence, right? She has so many resources. She can just leave. There will
True.
be a bed for her. She'll be safe. She'll have counselling. She'll have legal people helping her. So, and they have all this, and yet it's a problem for women. Men have absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. And therein lies the issue. And this is also what they are saying themselves. The charity says it has received 13,000 calls and emails between April and July, compared to, well, almost half of that the same period in 2019. That's quite a big difference.
It is.
And, I mean, just like with how women can constantly tell you, well, if you're raped, you don't always report it, this is especially true for male domestic violence victims. Most often, they don't talk to anyone. Hell, I remember making a video about it, I think last year or the year before that, how the American Psychological Association blamed men for not wanting to talk.
Yeah, well, and this is all part of the feminist strategy. Victim blaming.
Yeah.
When a woman doesn't want to talk, it's because she's rightly distrustful of the police, even though the police are fully trained to be as open and accepting of whatever a woman says as possible, right? They're literally trained in that, right? But they push that. But when it happens to men who genuinely aren't believed, who are generally sent packing by the police, no, it's men's fault for not wanting to talk about it and not wanting to.
Yeah. And even though they're having lots of numbers, I mean, 13,000, yeah, you know what? That's not a small number. 8,000 is not a small number. They talk about the Bradford-based charity Men Standing Up, talking about male domestic abuse and referrals from across the country. And it started up 6 years ago, and it has dealt with more than 4,000 cases. Now, at one point you can say, well, 4,000 in 6 years, that's not a lot. Yeah, maybe not. But that's the top of the iceberg.
Yeah, but it's not just that. But also, whenever something's talked about affecting women, it's always coupled with, and even one's too many.
Yeah.
So when it's men, either one is too many.
I agree. No two ways about it. Yeah, you're correct.
Zero equality in feminism.
No, you're correct. And it is also true that one is too many. We shouldn't look away when there is a victim of domestic violence, regardless what dangles or lacks to dangle between their legs.
Yeah, I mean, the point is this, okay? Let's just pretend, for the sake of argument, the feminist argument was true, that 90% of domestic violence was men attacking women. Let's just pretend that's true. Okay. But that is still not an excuse to not provide equal services for that 10% who are men. But there, because 90% are women, we get 100% of everything.
Yeah. And the thing is that most men know this. They know that if they ask for help, there is no help. And if you know that there is no help, then how often will you ask? Anyway, I need a fast bio break, John. I'll be right back. Sorry, mate.
That's okay. Says 5 now. It does indeed, Ludicrous. Mine says 5. So we have a lurker. Who's lurking? But yes, so yes, it seems silly talking to you guys about Erin Pitsy because you probably know as much as I do, or near enough. But yes, when Modway mentioned the early 20th century, It was because I'd pointed out to him. Yeah, sorry about that, Michael. There's nothing I can do at my end. Hello, Real Raven. And it was because I'd read this book, The Feminist Lie by E. Balfour Bax, written in 1913. And even in 1913, he is pointing out the disparities of legal treatment between men who do minor things to women and are treated very harshly, and women who can kill men and get away with it.
Well, I mean, how long was that ago? Was it last year?
107 years.
No. I mean, the example I was trying to think. There was this girl in England, and she was studying to become a surgeon.
Oh, about 5 years ago, the doctor who was the psycho on drugs stabbed a boyfriend in the leg, and
again, because it wasn't the first time.
Oh, she threw a computer at him. Yeah, and he said, "Oh, I don't want to ruin her career."
Yeah, but if a man looks at a woman wrong, woo.
Well, I mean, we'll get an article in the Metro about aggressive staring,
which is now happening because of Cojona, and well, we're all muzzled, so obviously we stare at women wrongly because we're muzzled.
Aggressively.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, no, it's quite weird. And if you talk about this, I mean, I'm glad to hear that the BBC does more about this, but yeah, I haven't seen it. But that does not mean that they haven't done it. That merely means that I haven't seen it.
Here's the problem, right? Okay, so the BBC is a large organisation, and one of the things is we have a narrative that the BBC is very leftist, and certainly in its news output, that is true. But it's still a large organisation. And so you can always get pockets of sanity amongst the ideological madness. That you get different departments with different commissioning editors, and so things will get put out there. You know what I mean? It's so it's like it's very dangerous to oversimplify the BBC or something like that. You see what I'm saying? It's like even the Guardian has the odd article you could read and not want to vomit.
True. This is kind of funny, by the way. I mentioned a moment ago that in the chat that analytics is going haywire about how many people are watching. According to analytics, at this point in time, we have 0 viewers.
Oh, according to you?
No, not to me. According to analytics.
No, yeah, according to your analytics, but it says 6 on our screen.
Right. Yeah, I made a screenshot of the line. It's interesting. It's very interesting because I know, but yeah.
Look, YouTube fucks with people. It has algorithms.
Yep.
And those algorithms are there to fuck with people.
Yep, because now it says there are 6.
Yeah.
I'll make 2 screenshots, one from the one and one from the other. That's interesting.
Bodwin, please, don't distract. We know. They fuck with you. We believe you. They fuck with everybody.
Yeah. Well, I've more or less given up hope on YouTube anyway. I have to admit that I am getting rather melancholic in my old days, so to speak.
Well, okay, so I hear lots of arguments, and one of the arguments is so the left are in the death row because the trans stuff and the BLM stuff and the white fragility and all the racism has pushed too far.
Yeah.
And they're getting, Trump's banned critical race theory.
Which is a good thing, let's be honest.
Which is a brilliant thing, right? And the point is, even him doing it brings the topic to the public.
Mm-hmm.
Because the problem is the way they frame it is, oh, it's just for equality.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't give you an angle you can argue against. You know, like Me Too. Oh, you're for men raping women. No, Me Too was a vindictive movement of false accusations with a few true accusations thrown in.
Which is kind of funny, because if we look at the whole Biden situation, bloody hell, the Juanita Broderick one.
Yeah.
This is well documented. I still can't believe that they never researched into it, because from the very, I mean, what was it, the 1970s or something? Can't remember. I have to look it up. But the mother of Juanita Broderick was recorded talking about it. Was that Clinton? Okay, then I'm terrible with names, that's for sure.
Oh, she the one laughing at that when she laughed about getting a guilty person freed. But I mean, the problem is,
no, it was. Sorry, John. I have to correct my mistake. It wasn't Juanita Broderick, because that was indeed Clinton. It was Tara Reid, and the allegation was in 1993. But yeah, nothing ever happened with that one.
Of course not, because part of their vile ideology isn't the action, which is why I hate feminism so much, because they say, oh, it's this act, it's so bad. No, it's who's doing it you care about.
I'm not sure if Joe Biden assaulted her again in 2020. I think it came back to the news.
No. He means it was a story in 2020.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, obviously, because it came back.
No, because, right, at the time, there was evidence of Tara Reid actually making this allegation. At the time.
Mm-hmm.
Was it unlike the Kavanaugh one, where the first anyone knew about it was when she brought it up prior to his Supreme Court nomination.
Yeah.
With Tara Reid, she actually made complaints and talked about it at the time. And so people can't say, oh, well, it's just an opportunistic. It's like, no.
Hi there, Paolo. No, but it's true. So the whole Me Too thing and feminism and the left are basically digging their own.
Well, because they're not honest. They have no principles. The things they say they complain about, they don't care about.
Yeah.
That's the problem. They say they care about violence against black people. Okay. But then you disregard all the violence against black people unless it's done by a white cop, or even a cop you can pretend is white even though they're not.
Yeah, which is bloody hell. Hispanic is white enough for this, but in everything else, Hispanic doesn't mean white.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's all just really naked opportunism and insincerity.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, if you mention stuff like that, well, obviously, it is you that must be wrong. And it's strange or silly. I mean, this is also why I got the other one that I wanted to talk about. And both of these articles came to me over our Discord from Michael. Thank you, Michael. But yeah, can we talk about toxic femininity? And it's kind of funny Because this toxic femininity thing. Um, by the way, this is a very ugly woman. I'm sorry to say that. She doesn't even look good. Anyway,
Really? Oh, I think
yeah,
she looks quite attractive.
really,
Yeah,
with those lips.
yeah.
Nah. Well,
Well, it's obviously not to your taste, but I'm saying
there
I
is
think
no
she looks
accounting
attractive.
for taste or lack
Well, I know
thereof,
you haven't got any. I understand that.
says the Englishman. Bloody hell!
Hey, are you being racist?
Englishman isn't a race, mate.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's
You're
not.
saying that being English, right, affects my ability to have taste. That is racist. Sorry.
No, that's, listen, English is not a race. You can call it bigoted, fair enough, but
No, it's
English,
racist.
what race are you then?
I'm English.
No, you're Homo sapiens sapiens.
No, that's species.
That is a race.
Species.
No, that's race.
Look, you can't go. Look. Okay.
That's
When I'm
race.
racist, I'm not using our definition of race, which doesn't exist, because then nothing's racist.
No,
By definition.
my point exactly.
But by their definition, you're being racist.
Well, yeah, by their definition, everything is racist if you can
Well, there you
claim
are,
that
then.
the person
Stop
you're talking
denying
to
it.
is a victim. You're not a victim,
You're
though, are you?
right. You said something, therefore you're racist.
Yeah. Ooh, look at the time. Ooh, racist. Species, Homo sapiens sapiens, yes, but that also means race. Caucasian is also not a race. It's an ethnicity.
Well, there are different Caucasian ethnicities too, so
Indeed.
Caucasian is not a monolith.
Mm-hmm.
I'm of the pasty British Isles variety.
Well, we're both Germanic, so there's that.
No. But there's Germanic.
Yes, you are.
And there's the pasty British Isles. And
yeah,
there's
it's just
genetic grouping.
Yeah, just ethnicity. Anyway, let's go to the next article. A concept once confined to academia, toxic masculinity has quickly become part of our everyday language. Yeah, because we've all been forced into the postmodernistic bullshit. It's commonly used to refer to inherently harmful traditionally masculine traits.
Yeah, inherently harmful. Stoicism, competitivism.
But here's the thing. Stoicism is a good thing. Competitiveness is a good thing. Dominance is a good thing. Aggression is a good thing.
No. Actually, okay. Right. Male characteristics are stoicism and competitiveness, right?
Yeah.
But also an inherent male trait is cooperativeness.
Yeah.
Competitiveness and cooperativeness in a
society.
Peculiar interaction with each other, right?
Yeah.
Dominance and aggression are not.
But if you compare, or not compare, you need to see things in line. So dominance is a good thing. If you're within a hierarchy, you need a dominant structure.
Yeah, but here's the point. It is not an inherently male trait.
No, that's true. Point. No, yeah, that's true.
Dominance and aggression are the apex fallacy.
Yeah. But they are not inherently bad.
Competitiveness are male. Dominance and aggression are the apex fallacy, and you will find them in apex women every bit as much as apex men.
Yeah, but the point I was trying to make, dominance and aggression in itself aren't bad things. It's
It's the way they put them out of context.
Yeah.
Right? But the point is this: they are not male, they are equally female, and they are apex, not characteristic of the whole.
Yeah. Well, this is also what they say.
Stoicism is an inherently male trait due to an evolved It's the same reason we don't give a shit about men, right?
Yeah.
Because it's the other side of it. We are stoical because we know no one else gives a shit. And no one else gives a shit because in evolutionary terms, you couldn't afford to get too hung up on someone who might not return from any hunt.
Yeah. And let's be honest, men are expendable. We still are.
Yeah. And that's fine. And the other side of that is stoicism.
Yeah.
So men evolved to be stoical because they were expendable.
Yep. It's annoying, but it's true.
No, and this is the point. You see, I mean, it's like I recognise that society is much less compassionate about men than women, right?
True.
But that's just a biological evolutionary fact.
Also true.
So it's not an issue of complaint; it's an issue of observation.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's also why dominance and aggression to me are not inherently negative things. Now, obviously, they can turn negative, but then again, everything can turn negative.
No, but I disagree that dominance and aggression are as prevalent as that statement indicates.
No, fair enough.
Traditionally masculine trait. Okay.
No,
I'm sorry.
enough.
No, cooperation is a far more dominant male trait than dominance and aggression. If you have a group of men, right, and they have to do something, they will try and automatically self-allocate to the different skills each has got. So each person will look at the skills of another person, and if that person is stronger in an area, they will naturally defer to that person.
True.
That is maleness. It's, oh, good, that person knows how to do X, I don't have to worry about it.
Well, but that's also why dominance in itself isn't a negative thing.
No, but it's not dominance. This is my point, because it's equally subservience, or not subservience, but stepping aside.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? It's not.
No, true.
Most I'm trying to say, the way they framed it, dominance and aggression. No, men are aggressive when they, under a threat.
Yeah, there are reasons to be.
For the vast majority of our lives, threats do not manifest, and so we're not aggressive.
No.
So anyway, to say it's a traditionally masculine trait is a lie.
Yeah, but let me continue. So, because this is what the article is saying. But while we have heard of toxic masculinity, why we never discuss the possibility of toxic femininity? And I like to place a line between why don't we talk about toxic femininity and to something that Jordan Peterson once said. Why can't we discuss on how the left is going too far?
Because the left control the narrative.
Well, true. Why are we not?
It is.
Yes.
Every
John, I already said true. Trust me.
I'm just saying, every time you raise the issue, they change the subject.
But by that same logic, why can't we talk about the left going too far? Why can't we talk about feminism going too far? Why can't we talk about toxic?
We do. It's just that in the mainstream, we don't control the narrative.
So we can't talk about these things. Well, you and I can, and small YouTube channels can, or even bigger YouTube channels can. But it's never going to go mainstream. Why? Because those that control the narrative will not allow you to have that conversation.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. So why aren't we talking about toxic femininity? What is toxic femininity? Well, if it's toxic when
feminism.
Men... Well, yeah, it is. But if certain behavior is toxic because men do it, then shouldn't the same behavior be toxic when women do it?
Now, you see, this Alison... why have I forgotten the surname? Alison of Honey Badger has explained this. Right. So here's what's happened. They took all the human traits and they decided that good ones are female, neutral ones are both, and bad ones are male. Literally, that's what they did.
Okay.
And so all these traits are common to people. Maybe overpopulations, they might tend a little more to one sex or a little more to the other sex, but there are no traits unique to one sex and devoid from the other sex, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all traits can be performed by people. But what do? Your typical feminist narrative is, oh, we talk about bad things, then we use populations to compare. As if women being more empathetic as a population means all women are empathetic and no man is empathetic, which is absolute bollocks, right?
Yeah, it's a tendency too. It's not universal.
So the way they actually talk about it, it uses this double speak of, oh well, we will throw in the population differences at this level and then immediately switch to the individual.
Yeah.
Even though the two can't be compared, right? A population difference says nothing about individual differences.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is what they do. So when it comes to something like aggression, oh well, men are more aggressive than women, so men are aggressive and women are not. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Even though what you're actually looking at is a slight population tendency more toward the male and less toward the female, perhaps. I'd like to see actual evidence of that. But and another factor is men and women tend to be aggressive in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Men have greater physical strength, and also this involved need to express ourselves physically, whether in hunting or war or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we express our aggression. Women are really aggressive socially.
Yeah, they are.
They will destroy people socially. Which is worse? Well, if you've had your life destroyed, even though no one's laid a finger on you, I wouldn't say that's any better than having been beaten up. You can get over being beaten up. But if your life's been taken from you, as has often happened as a result of female aggression.
Yeah.
But what do? They deny. Oh, a false rape accusation doesn't hurt. Oh, that's why there are no suicides. People have lost everything after a false rape accusation.
Mm-hmm.
Because they lie. They just lie. And they know they're lying. Of course they do. They study these things.
It is rather cynical. Anyway, so psychological studies show that forms of femininity can also be taken to the extreme. Negative feminine traits typically include emotional manipulation, passive aggressiveness, and the weaponization of gossip. Now, I'm pretty pleased to see that they finally say that this is also negative behavior, but let's be honest. Women tend to use violence just as much as men do, or almost as much.
You mean physical violence?
Physical violence.
Yeah.
And women tend to grab tools to enhance themselves in that physical violence far faster than men do.
Yeah. I mean, okay. I mean, I've said this for years, right? If you want to if feminists were actually honest and wanted to reduce violence against women, they would teach girls not to hit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Instead, they positively encourage it, and they always justify it and explain it away. Oh, well, it's not important. Yeah, well, if it's the woman hitting the man that leads the man to put the woman in hospital, it's kind of important.
But that's the thing, though. And how many? I mean, if we go on YouTube now, how many videos can we not find of women hitting men, and then as soon as the man strikes back, they start complaining?
Yeah. Well, worse than that, I was wanting to mention earlier, I've seen videos where a woman has been, beating on a man.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone just watches. The
Yep.
minute he retaliates, they're all over him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's like, no, I'm sorry, that's not acceptable. Self-defense is fine. If someone hits you, you're entitled to hit them back. You don't have to use excessive force, but you have to teach them that there are consequences to their actions.
And that's the thing. Because if we look at male interaction and female interaction tends to be far more verbal, and male interaction tends to be less verbal. That doesn't automatically mean male interaction is physical, but it's less verbal. Now, one of the first defenses people do when they are in an abusive relationship, or a verbal abusive relationship, is they zone out. They stop listening.
Mm-hmm.
This is when, on average, women tend to turn more violent a lot faster than men do.
Yeah, because they've not been taught that there are consequences.
Well, that's one thing. And the other thing is, they've been able to control with words. And all of a sudden, they can't.
No, but my point is this. You hear the stories of small girls running up to a boy, hitting him, and then going, ha ha, you can't hit me back because I'm a girl.
Yep.
They learn their power very early. And that in itself is toxic, right?
True that.
Because that is the very definition of cowardice. To hit somebody and then go, ha, you can't hit me back, is the very definition of cowardice.
Ludacris said this: there is no difference between an abusive relationship or a verbally abusive relationship. There is no distinction. And I have to...
Yeah, well, I agree.
I have to admit, I agree, Ludacris. Turning from verbal to physical is often just another step, but we know
this is what I was saying. This is what I was saying. That
but we know, John, let me please finish my sentence. But we do know that where women fear domestic violence, well, they don't, but they claim to fear domestic violence. We also know that men are far more vulnerable when it comes to verbal violence, and especially if it is someone that you've connected yourself with. Men tend to want to protect people, and if the person that you want to protect is actually attacking you, this does damage to the image of self, and this is very often one of the leading causes of suicide. So I agree that there is a very thin distinction between verbal abusive and physical abusive.
Yeah, but it's not just directly abusive. This is what I was trying to say. If, again, you hear about men who suddenly found their friends distancing themselves.
Yep.
And it's because they've been lied about and they've been slandered, right? But no one ever actually goes up to them and says, oh, I heard this about you. Is that true?
Nope.
And so their lives are ruined, right?
Yeah, indeed. And I agree with you, Ludicrous. It's all abuse. It is. And you can't say one is worse than the other because what makes it worse are the outcomes. And yeah, some people can handle physical abuse better than others. Some people can handle verbal abuse better than others.
Some
Some
people
cannot.
actually have kinks. Some people actually have kinks where they seek physical abuse.
Yep, that is also true.
But again, what that does is it actually says it's far more complicated, right? It's far more complicated than a simple, this is good, that is bad, these people are bad, those people are good. No, it's all complicated. You can only resolve it looking at individual cases. And the problem is we live in huge states who cannot look at individual cases. They want to write rules.
And here is another line that I find very interesting in this article. Gossip between women tends to be more aggressive and competitive in nature, seeking to exclude others, or other girls, but other men as well, from social groups and destroy their reputation. Anyone who's been at an all-girls school can definitely vouch for that. Well, I've not been to an all-girls school, so I can't.
Oh,
but,
you poor soul.
Yeah, I know. I missed out. But the thing is, where men are, the aggression of men is in the field of physicality and dominance. This is why boys, both verbally and physically, learn each other's limits. And this is why men are completely able to be subservient. That's not really the right word, but men do not have a problem following a leader as long as they are actually going somewhere.
Thank you. That was exactly what I was saying earlier about competitiveness.
But that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. Now, in our current society, because women's gossip used to have the same function between women, but we have become blind to it, or rather we've been learned to ignore it. So the aggressiveness and competitive...
Not under Sharia. Sharia recognizes it. It's in the law.
Well, true. Funny enough, there are a few ancient cultures, more or less ancient cultures, that warn for this as well. Because just like unbridled aggression of a man is a problem, the unbridled aggression of a woman is a problem. Mind you, hashtag not all. Most women are not.
No, of course. Here's the problem, right? All these behaviours are minority fringe behaviours.
Well,
the difference is
some fringes are bigger than the others.
Mod. The difference is the minority of men who are on the fringe are aggressively pursued and prosecuted.
True.
The minority of women who are on the fringe are often praised and put up by feminists as a good example.
Well, yeah. No, but it's kind of funny because if we look at, and I like talking about archetypes, shows my, well, lack of knowledge perhaps, but anyway, I like talking about archetypes. If we look... Archetypes. Okay. Archetypes. I say Dutch. Fuck it.
Well, you speak in English, man. Come on.
It's a word. Words have no meaning unless we give it to them. That's what the postmodernists mean. So.
Understood.
Well, fair enough then. Archetypes. So the thing is, though, if we look at old stories, fairy tales, mythological stories, there are plenty of story where the man is a bad guy, but there are not more of them than where the woman is the bad guy. Everyone knows of the Wicked Witch. There are more. Sorry?
Or Stepmother, or...
Yeah. There are plenty of stories. There's a reason why those stories are there. Because just like there are stories of the fairy godmother. Don't get me wrong. You have good archetypes, you've got bad archetypes. The good archetype is a woman trying to take care of everyone around them. The bad archetype is a woman who tries to dominate and tell other people how to live their lives. The good archetype for a man is a prince who will fight monsters to save the princess. Obviously, in the story, he always
Fucking
survives.
royalty.
Well, fair enough. Obviously, in the stories, he always survives. But we all know that fighting monsters can be a deadly thing. The bad archetypes, well, there aren't that many bad archetypes when it comes to stories about men. It's usually slavers, people that kidnap children, stuff like that.
Well, actually, I think it's Sargon. He was describing the Epic of Gilgamesh. And in the Epic of Gilgamesh, Gilgamesh himself starts out as a villain. And the story is actually his transformation into a hero.
Yeah. The original hero story.
No, but the point is it fully recognizes and outlines what is a bad leader, what can be considered evil, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it explains the selflessness and the sacrifice and the personal achievement required to become a heroic figure.
Mm-hmm. True.
The personal journey. And so it's not true that there was no villain, it's that there's no point in a villain for villain's sake.
Well, yes, but the other, I mean, because there are stories where male characters are the bad guy or the villain. Gilgamesh obviously is a great story where he is both. The point I was not making, the point I wasn't making was that there aren't any. The point I was making is that there are more versions of the Wicked Witch than there are of the male protagonist. Protagonist? Antagonist. Yeah. I always keep those words
protagonist. Well,
whatever.
Protagonist, antagonist is essentially a matter of perspective, isn't it?
Yeah. But in most stories, men fight monsters, not other men. Children are to be afraid of strange men, though reality has shown us that children are far more in danger from their own mother, which is never a nice thing to have to admit. Therefore, we continuously ignore it.
Worse. There are jurisdictions where there are special, more lenient laws of murder solely for mothers killing their children.
The antagonist. Ludicrous. Don't.
Why?
Nah.
It's good.
Meh. Anyway, so yeah. No, I mean, the stories tell us a lot of things where children have to be scared of, where men have to be scared of. And they give us examples. Now, funny enough, we don't understand these stories anymore. I mean, who here knows about Hansel and Gretel? Who here knows about, well, yeah, obviously we do, but on average, if we
you
look at...
said who here? I'm sorry, who here is us?
Well, fair enough. But, I mean, remember how what was it? Disney made that movie Maleficent. I don't know.
Did they?
Yeah, they made a movie Maleficent. Maleficent is the Wicked Witch who cursed.
Is it Snow White?
I think so. The one that got pricked by.
No, that's Sleeping Beauty.
Sleeping Beauty, that's the one. And Maleficent was the Wicked Witch. She became the Wicked.
Well, of course, it's a bloody name.
Well, no. In the movie Maleficent, she became the Wicked Witch because she got betrayed by a boy.
Of course.
And she fell in love with Cinderella. Sleeping Beauty. So the curse was already more or less.
Yeah, of course. It's always got to be somebody else's fault. And the thing is, okay, there is truth in that because domestic violence, rape, things like this are intergenerational. The vast majority of men incarcerated for raping women were themselves sexually abused as children by an adult woman.
Yeah.
So the problem is if you have an ideology which denies the female part of it, you can't address it. Because the time to break the cycle is when the woman abuses the child.
And you can't because you can't mention it.
Then you can't mention it. Or worse, a female teacher can go to prison for raping a 30-year-old student and then get paternity pay from him as a 13-year-old who is cannot legally earn any money for the child she has.
Yep.
This is how disgusting the law is, because the law doesn't care about truth or justice. It cares about women. But we live in a misogynistic society that hates women, apparently.
Yeah. So yeah, when can we talk about toxic femininity? Well, we can't. Grimm's fairy tales were kind of gore, if you think. Yeah, they were. Fallout fandom antagonist. Okay, well, I gotta look at that one then. What's that? But yeah, no, I mean, the stories were indeed rather gore because they were supposed to, yeah, how do I say this? Teach a society. Oh.
Well, I mean, you say that, Ludicrous, but the fact is that until 200 years ago, society was far less bourgeois.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't forget, Lord of the Rings was written as a children's book.
And everybody.
Yeah, kids were there too.
To watch, including kids.
Now, I always find it interesting. Lord of the Rings books, which are now considered 16 plus, were written as kids' books.
Well, the Hobbit was. I'm not sure about the Lord of the Rings.
The trilogy Lord of the Rings was also a child's book. Well, a set of children's book.
I mean, the Hobbit was read to me at junior school, so I'd be about 9 or 10.
That's possible.
The teacher read the book to us at that age. And now they're saying it's 16 plus.
Yeah, well, it's the same for the Lord of the Rings, which also was a children's book.
But you can teach an infant child about anal sex.
Yeah.
Anyone but me sees the contradiction in that.
Yeah, no, indeed. And yes, Michael, the Lord of the Rings was one book. They split it in 3 because it was such a big book. But yeah, it was written as one book.
No, but the Lord of the Rings was a sequel. The Hobbit was the original book.
No, it was indeed a sequel, but the Lord of the Rings was also. I mean, the whole concept of the writings of Tolkien, you can read nearly all books in sequence because his whole idea was to create.
Yeah, but he didn't write them in the sequence they happened.
No, that's true. That's true.
But
you don't read that back.
The Silmarillion last, and that's the prelude.
No, the Silmarillion is more of an how do you call it?
No, it's a prelude. It tells the story of the whole world from the start.
Yeah. But I mean,
it explains who Sauron was and where he came from.
Yeah, but
it explains how orcs were evolved. It explains all kinds of things. The Silmarillion is the history.
But he used this. I mean, he didn't write the Silmarillion last. It got published last, but he used the well, not the Silmarillion in itself. He didn't publish it, by the way. I think his son did, but he used it as how do you call it, backup, to make sure that the other books he written would more or less fall in line. It's not a backup. How do you call it? A guideline? Overview? Yeah, overview might be a good word. Anyway, so yeah, the funny thing about, can women have toxic femininity? Yes, they can, but you're not to mention it, just like you're not to mention how the left can go too far.
Okay, so here's my take, right? The concepts of toxic masculinity and femininity are bullshit. Can people be toxic? And can they be toxic in sex-typical ways? Yes.
Yeah.
But that is not what toxic masculinity is. And if you can't have toxic masculinity because it's bullshit, you can't have toxic femininity.
Well, no, you have people that are toxic, period. And some people are toxic in one direction, but you can also be toxic by being too passive.
No, but that's not my point. No. Stop muddying the waters. I'm saying men and women can, in general, as populations, have tendencies where men are toxic one way and women are toxic in a different way. But that does not preclude men from being toxic in the way women generally are, or women from being toxic in the way men generally are.
Yeah, because
therefore,
people are people.
It's not masculinity or femininity, because we all have a mixture of both.
Yeah, it's people are people.
People are people. No, but that's the point. Because they say, oh, men and women are all the same, but this is masculine and that is feminine.
Yeah, that's always a good thing. Oh, women are 100% the same as men, and men are pigs. Okay.
But yeah, and it's like they can't keep their story straight for a minute.
Yeah, because their whole story is based on whatever it is that they want to say at that point in time. There is no consistency.
They have no principles.
No, if not for double standards, they didn't have any standards at all. Anyway, let's continue, because I had, 2 more pages I want to go to. The Wentworth Report, written 2017, and some of the numbers in here I want to contest, but I haven't looked into it right now, so I'm not going to make too much of a point. But the rate of domestic violence is highest in lesbian relationships. It's a PC myth that domestic violence is all about men hurting women in heterosexual relationships. It's not. Women dish out a lot of violence too, including, if not almost exclusively, against kids.
No. The way you said that, no, what I'm saying is the violence against kids is overwhelmingly by women, but women's violence is not overwhelmingly against kids.
Well, okay, fair enough. Well, they do tend to do more violence.
No. Women and men are equally violent with each other, and it's shown that 70% of mutual violence is initiated by the woman.
Yeah.
So women are not less physically violent than men. Okay. In terms of the willingness to initiate physical conflict.
Yeah.
However, that's because when it comes to kids, 80% is done by women. Therefore, if you look at the two together, women are more violent than men.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, though, and this is also why in this, I think, because there is no real study done into the subject, unfortunately. What a surprise. But I think one of the reasons why domestic violence between lesbian women is so much higher is because where men learn to deal with their masculinity and their aggression, women don't learn to deal with their aggression.
Yeah, but that's the theme I've been pushing. That women are not told not to hit. They are not told there are consequences.
Yeah.
And women, like you said, you know, at the beginning, and it said as a male trait, dominance. No, dominance is something anyone can have. And if you find a woman who's being violent, it's because she wants to dominate.
Yeah.
So don't tell me dominance is a male trait. It's a human trait.
Yeah, fair enough. True that. Now, I'm going to read the next small bit. The US Center for Disease Control and Prevention of 2010 of National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Survey reported on the lifetime prevalence of rape, physical violence or stalking by an intimate partner, focusing for the first time on victimization by sexual orientation. It finds that victimization prevalence are 43.8% for lesbians, making it the second most affected group after bisexual women.
Yeah, and do you know why? Because lesbian women are particularly violent against bisexual women.
Yeah, funny enough. Because if we look at bisexual men, that percentage drops.
It is still very high.
It's still high, but men tend to be less aware of violence from women. So a woman has to go pretty far to be registered.
Yeah. Well, no, again, it depends how they are, whether they're doing it by survey. And it depends, and as I mentioned to you before, the stream.
Mm-hmm.
When they asked people to self-report in surveys, they got different answers when they asked how often have you been a victim. Women came out higher than men, right?
Yeah.
But when they asked how much have you been a perpetrator, women also came out higher than men, because women admitted to being violent far more often than men admitted to having violence perpetrated against them by a woman.
Yeah, because when men don't, on average, like to admit stuff like that.
Yeah, but and this is very important. So what it actually means is, for a start, we take all the figures with a certain grain of salt, because we don't and cannot know the true figures.
Yeah, right? Unfortunately not.
No, and this is my first complaint against feminists. They cite these figures as if they are scientific fact, and the best we can get is a rough approximation.
Well, the funny thing is, if we look at the numbers, even the numbers in this one, feminists won't abide by these numbers because it goes against their narrative.
Well, Mary P. Coss and all that.
Well, seriously though, I mean, lesbians are basically the highest.
Yeah. And everyone knows that except feminists.
Which doesn't make sense.
It does make sense. It makes perfect sense if you understand what feminism is.
Well, true, but still, I mean, not every...
They don't care about women, right? Feminism does not care about women.
But at the same time, not everyone is a feminist. So what is the reason?
No, but I said it's a
John, one sec. What is the reason that our mainstream media keeps pushing the narrative, even though the narrative is constantly shut down?
Because the mainstream media, like all of our elite, is feminist.
Well, maybe.
No, it is. I mean, okay. The whole agenda, right, has been you indoctrinate people when they're young. And it doesn't matter so much if they break the conditioning when they get older, because you have a perpetual pipeline of new impressionable minds to indoctrinate when people are young. And so the whole education system is now thoroughly feminist, and it just indoctrinates. And I was watching a trigonometry stream the other night, And it was Peter Lloyd talking to those two morons. And those two morons repeated feminist lie after feminist lie after feminist lie.
Mm-hmm.
And every one of them,
Yeah.
was stated as fact. It's a fact that most domestic violence victims are women. It's a fact women were paid less. It's a fact. I mean, here's my favourite one they brought up. Women could not get a mortgage without a male co-signatory in the 60s. And do you know why that is?
Because men are responsible.
Because women could not legally be held accountable for their debts.
Yeah.
So the mortgage lender had to find somebody they could hold legally responsible.
Yeah.
But they don't mention that. They just say, oh, women were so discriminated against. They couldn't even get a mortgage without a male co-signer. Well, then tell them why.
Yeah, because if they didn't have a co-signer, they couldn't be held responsible.
Yeah. And who's going to lend money to somebody who you cannot pursue to repay?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but that you saying but the point, that's the point. And they'll trot out the headline, but they won't trot out the reason. And it's not even a long or complicated reason. It's one sentence, right? And so you get all these lies. Oh, women were hard done by. No, they weren't. There was always a reason. And the feminists never addressed the reason.
No, that's true.
No, it's just how it was.
That's why I just said that's true.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, back to the article.
So annoying.
Back to the article. Domestic violence is a silent epidemic in gay relationships, according to Belinda Contominas. This is an, link, so you can read it up yourself. Domestic violence has become a silent epidemic in the gay and lesbian community, despite being the subject of increased scrutiny in heterosexual relationships, according to the AIDS Council of, I think, New South Wales, but I'm not quite sure. Roughly 1 in 3 lesbians, gay, bisexual, transgender, and intersex couples experience domestic violence. People, 1 in 3.
Yeah.
That number doesn't come close to being representative in heterosexual relationships.
No. First, one of the things that really pisses me off with these figures, right?
Yeah.
Is they never define their terms. Because the only reason they can claim such high percentages is because they will claim things that the supposed victim didn't consider. This is the problem.
How do you mean?
Well, because, okay, it started with a woman called Mary Peacock. She did surveys in the United States into female victims of sexual assault. And she did it by this. She would interview people, right? But then she would ask general questions, not the specific questions. And then when she said who had and had not been the victim of a sexual assault or a rape, most of the people disputed it. They themselves didn't think it. So what it was is the academics were basically stacking the deck. They were calling far more things rape. Because like a sexual assault. Oh, he touched my knee. Seriously, that'll get classed as a sexual assault. So then they'll go rape. So then they'll go, oh well, rape's actually quite low. It's still too high. Blah blah blah. It's quite low. So what we do is, and 1 in 3 has had an experience of rape or sexual assault. Yes, because nearly everyone's had a hand put on their knee.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just lying. because they're actually using things no one considers a problem except a few idiots, mental people, right? And then they use those figures to talk about the serious thing everyone cares about. It's the old Motte and Bailey thing, right? So they go, oh, there's all these rapes and sexual assaults. Well, no. Separate the two, right? Separate the two. How many actual rapes? How many forced sex against your will? Legalistic bullshit where women can't rape men. If you force somebody to have sex against their expressed, not silent, expressed consent, we'll count that as a rape, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many of those happen? Suddenly the numbers dwindle to almost nothing. They can't have these massive, because here's what happens, right? So Mary Peacock would ask a question like, did you ever have sex when you weren't interested? And there are women who will have sex. And if you listen to Bettina Arndt, she actually advocates women to do this, who will have sex not because they want it, but because their partner wants it, and that's part of a loving relationship, right?
Okay, yeah, sure.
That's counted as rape. No one's doing anything against their will, but Mary Peacock counts that as a rape.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, and this is the problem. So when they just throw you a figure and say, oh, so many have been raped, excuse me, what possible definition are you using? Because, I am sure that many people in their lives, right? So I don't know how many days you live a life for. So say you live to 70 and there's 365 days in a year. That's tens of thousands, 100,000 days, right?
Yeah.
And for much of those 100,000 days, you may be in an intimate relationship with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And on one of those days, something untoward happened, right? Your partner tried to pressure you into sex because they were feeling randy and you weren't, right?
Which can happen.
All of a sudden, you get classed with somebody who is violently raped by strangers, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? It's like, I'm sorry, if your terms are too vague, they become meaningless. And they do this because they know the term itself is so emotive.
Yeah. It's the same thing though. I mean, regretting sex after the fact automatically means you've been raped. Having sex with someone who might not want to look at you for a serious relationship automatically means you're raped.
No, I'm sorry. Rape is intent. If
I know.
Man or a woman did not knowingly violate a person's consent, it isn't rape.
Yeah, no, I know.
Period. But not legally. But that's the problem. They now say, oh, well, the woman, and funnily, it's not two-sided, it's only the woman, has to verbally and, what's the word? Has to give enthusiastic
consent. Every step of the way.
That's why a woman, right, and we've had cases of this, a woman takes a man's penis, puts it in her own mouth, right, and then claims she was raped.
Yep. You have to be
a judge. No, and seriously, and judges will go along with that. And then you say, but why can't we talk about it? Because they've all been educated through this system, which has indoctrinated them into this way of thinking.
Yeah. It's weird. Anyway,
well,
so basically the last thing I wanted to talk about is this bit. 23 important male victims of domestic violence statistics. Now, most people here probably will know them, but hey, on the off chance that someone who doesn't know it watches this stream, I am going to bring them up. And actually, I'm going to close pretty fast. 63% of males, opposed to 15% of females, had a deadly weapon used against them in domestic violence. Let that sink in. Now the second one, only 50% of the domestic violence that is reported to law enforcement is against men. Yeah, okay, but we don't know what that means. I mean,
well, we do actually. This is my point. We have all the evidence that the rates of domestic violence are parity. That women, men are, I mean, basically, right, okay, so you've got different categories of domestic violence. The most common one is what they call mutual domestic violence, where both sides are violent to each other. But you've also got unilateral domestic violence, where one partner never resists or fights back. Those are overwhelmingly men who don't resist or fight back.
True.
You see, the breakdown is this. The stereotype of domestic violence is this: violent man attacking a woman who's cowering and whatever, right? That is 5%. Of all domestic violence, that is 5%. There are 15% where it's men who don't fight back against a woman, right? So that's already 3 times more. Then you've got the mutual violence, as I say, the biggest block, 70% of which is initiated by the woman.
Yeah.
So this, only 50%. Of course, we have an entire judicial system designed to dismiss and disregard violence against men. No shit that only 15% is men reporting it. No shit. That's the system we live in, where men who, in the United States, for instance, if they call the police because they've been attacked, they will be arrested.
They will be arrested. That's the Duluth model.
Yeah. And so, no shit. If you know you're going to get arrested for reporting an assault against you.
Yeah, that's true. 94% of perpetrators of sexual...
That is a lie. 94% of perpetrators of sexual abuse against boys are men. No, that is a lie.
Let me finish. 94% of perpetrators of sexual abuse against boys are men because certain things are not considered abuse. For example, if a woman would do what a man would do, it would not be constituted abuse.
Yeah.
It would be constituted misconduct. Don't ask me why that is, but bloody hell. I mean, how many teachers have been, arrested and even convicted of sexual misconduct of a minor?
Yeah.
Not rape, sexual misconduct. Well, obviously, if you look at it like that, then yes, 94% of sexual abuse are men, because women's sexual abuse against boys is not considered sexual abuse, it's considered misconduct. Unfortunately, I don't have that number here. So anyway, we've gone through quite a few things. Can this problem be stopped? Yes, it can. We need to stop talking about it as if it's a gendered thing. If a man does it,
Yeah.
it's bad. If a woman
It's
does
the
it,
act.
it's bad. It's
It's
the
the
act
act.
that needs to be
The
condemned.
act,
It's the act that needs to be condemned, not the
not
gender or sexuality of the perpetrator.
and let's be honest, who is saying it's not so bad when we do it? Is it men or is it women?
Yeah.
It's feminists
True.
saying it's not so bad when women do it. Well, no, I'm sorry. The it's not so bad is bullshit and needs to be thrown out for any discussion at all. The law has no place in it for identity. The
And
only
that's the thing.
identity that matters in the law is being a child.
Yeah, and even then they often say, well, it's a girl or a boy. Yeah, that
No.
again
Well,
shouldn't make a difference.
But it's age. Age is the only legal distinction which should matter, right?
Yeah.
An adult to a minor, okay?
Yeah.
But man to woman and woman to man, same thing. There should be no distinction.
Nope.
No special pleading. No, oh, it's not so bad when they do it. Well, you tell the victim.
Yep. There you have it. But this is indeed true. And people will say, yeah, well, there are more women victim than men. And I'm like, you know what? Even if that's 100% true, even if out of 100 victims, 75 are women and only 25 are men, I would like to think that all 100 of these victims need our compassion and help.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. It shouldn't matter. Even if the feminist line was true, that even if it's true, as I say, that the feminist narrative that it's 90% women who are affected was true, it wouldn't matter because you provide services for every victim.
Yeah.
This means 90% go to women. But no, they want 100%.
And therein lies the issue. Anyway. And the monkey is... Oh, the money is gone. Okay.
No, he's talking about Meghan.
Meghan Markle. Didn't she complain about how the people should go out and vote or something or other?
She's a vile SJW. Goodness
she
knows.
Is.
How he got suckered into it. See, this is the problem. A lot of people are the victims of their own good natures.
Yep. Well, I guess he gets good blowjobs.
No. It's their own.
Well, I hope so. Right? Otherwise, Harry has nothing.
Because you know, or Black Lives Matter. You can't possibly object to Black Lives Matter. No, everyone's life matters. Racist. Oh, what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like the minute someone attacks you for saying, well, because all lives matter, you know they're being dishonest. And yet, for some reason, the majority of people can't think. It's like, and I mean, it's like, that case that has just happened where the grand jury have found there is no case to be answered for the shooting of that black woman. I forget her name. Breonna Taylor, right? Yeah. So it's only in the last day or two they found there was no wrongdoing. Okay. The BBC immediately puts up an article. Hamilton, the racing driver. Shit, I'm trying to go blank. Lewis Hamilton. And two black American sports people, right?
Yeah.
reacting, hoping that justice. What the fuck, Lewis Hamilton, you fucking retard? Do you know why they have courts and juries? To examine the evidence.
Yeah.
Not to say, oh, once they've examined the evidence and they found that there was no wrongdoing, that must be a miscarriage of justice. No, you fucking retard. That's called a lynching.
Yeah.
You know, the thing we're supposed to be against. But no, it's like the BBC will put up this article, and it's just so vile and dishonest because, you know, that's what due process is for. The due process is there to show, to examine the evidence, to do an inquiry and find out if any wrongdoing even took place.
Yeah.
And it
they
didn't.
don't care.
End of story.
But they don't care. They don't.
But
how many times has it been proven that domestic violence is a 60-40 sort of thing? 60% female, 40% male victims.
50-50.
Well, the numbers I know are
50-50.
Fair enough. You can repeat your numbers. We do know that about 70% of domestic violence is initiated by women. It's been studied, it's been proven, it's been ignored. We know women are more likely to kill their own children. It's been studied, it's been thoroughly investigated, it's being ignored. Children, boys till the age of 10 are more likely to become a victim of a woman than of a man. It's been studied, it's been proven, it's being thoroughly ignored. And there is constantly the same repetitive action. Reality needs to be dismantled. Anyway, we've been at it for 1.5 hours. And I have to admit, I'm a little bit short of breath and I'm very tired. But then...
hang on, I'll just share my screen with you.
Okay.
And then...
you want me to show it?
Yeah, I want you to show it. This is the article I was telling you about the reaction to...
One sec. Because...
Okay, share screen. That one.
Okay. So that's one, then that. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, and now I have to do this so that people can see it too. And now the people should be able to see that Breonna Taylor sports stars react to decision not to charge police with the black woman's death. Now, before we go into this, from what I have known, I'm sorry that she lost her life, but people claim that it was a no-knock raid. This has been proven not to be the case. Yeah. People said the police started firing. Again, this has proven not to be the case. The first...
Even her partner admitted to being the one who shot first.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, it's a shame that she died. It's a sin that she died. I'm not
It's not a sin that she died.
I'm not sure if it's a crime that she died.
It's not a crime. She was stood beside a man shooting at the police, right? The police announced who they were before they entered, and they were in her home because they were conducting a drug operation out of her home.
Well, no, stop.
Innocent.
I'm not sure. I mean, has it been proven that they did? Because I thought she was suspected of doing it.
Independent witness saying that they knocked and announced who they were before.
No, that part I understood. And the police had a warrant to go into the house, because they
Yes.
assumed that she may be implicated in drugs.
He was a drug dealer. He was there.
No, he wasn't. Her ex-boyfriend
He
was.
was. No, the man shot the police as soon as he entered the property.
Was he also a drugs dealer? I thought not.
Yes. Yes.
I can't remember then. I really thought it was the ex-boyfriend that was the
No,
drug dealer.
and the ex-boyfriend. She had a history of consorting with drug dealers.
Okay, well, if that's the case.
But because she had once been an EMT, she was an angel, apparently.
Well, I would say she's a victim.
In America, right? If you are an accomplice to a crime, you are not innocent.
Well, if she were an accomplice to the crime, then yes, she's not innocent. As I said, I didn't know that her new boyfriend was also. I thought it was only the old one.
That was why they got the warrant, because he was a drug dealer and they knew he was there. And the search warrant was to look for evidence of drugs in her apartment.
Yeah, okay. The explanation I got is that there was indeed a search warrant to look for drugs in the apartment, but it wasn't the drugs of the new boyfriend. It was assumed to be the drugs of the old boyfriend.
I mean, the fact is that what happens is a narrative gets put out straight away. It's all lies, and then that's the only narrative the mainstream runs with.
Yeah.
Even though every single fact or lie gets refuted in the investigation. In fact, the DA's press conference about this, right? The one that's causing all this upset. He addressed every single accusation in that press conference. Oh, and he's black.
Well, yeah, there is that.
Because you will notice that they say here, a black woman, where does it say? Oh,
but she wasn't shot multiple times. She was hit multiple times. The difference being, if you're shot multiple times, people aim to shoot you.
Yeah.
No one aimed to shoot her.
Sorry, I'm trying to find where it said the two white police officers, probably because I can't. Two white officers, right? Because, two white officers and then a third, also white. Now, excuse me. Who's race baiting at this point?
Yeah.
Who's race baiting?
Well done, BBC.
I mean, at the end of the day, the first police officer was shot.
Yeah, before anything
police
else.
Officers returned fire. Now, if a police officer engaged in the lawful pursuit of their job gets fired at, they are more than entitled to fire back. That's why no charges were filed. But that apparently is all too difficult. But they mention, right, two white officers and a third white. Kentucky Attorney General Mr. Cameron. Did they say who's black? I don't think so. Why? Because that would destroy their narrative.
Yeah.
And LeBron James, I've been lost for words today. I'm devastated and said, we want justice for Breonna. No. Justice means applying the law.
Yep.
That was
they
done.
They want revenge.
Justice.
Yeah, they want revenge. Justice.
You don't mean justice, do you?
Nope, they want revenge.
And I'm sorry, LeBron James, were you in court every day? Did you hear all the evidence? Do you know what you're talking about? No, this is just a virtue signaling load of bollocks. Arrest the cops who killed Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton, I hope when you next go to the United States, they arrest your fucking ass.
Yeah.
The white supremacist institution of policing that stole Brianna's life from Colin Kaepernick. Holy fuck. Colin Kaepernick.
True. Well, anyway, as I said, I'm sorry that she got shot, because basically that's what happened. I'm sorry for her. Or rather, I'm sorry for her family, because I don't think that she will notice anything from it now. I wish she hadn't been shot, don't get me wrong. People shouldn't die from stray bullets, because basically that's what it was. But then again,
But you were stood right next to her. They were stood
bullets
together.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, if you're in a house and you're shooting at police entering your apartment and you're stood next to the person you're supposed to care about, whose fault is it? It's
well,
not the police.
I don't know how the situation was set up.
No, okay.
I mean, let's be honest. If she has a room, yeah, a bedroom, and the two of them
next to him.
Yeah, how big are the bedrooms?
No, it's in the hallway.
Well, even more so. I mean, we're talking about a fraction of seconds.
It's not in a bedroom. It's not in a room. They knocked on the door, right? Yes. The man, the policeman, steps in and is shot immediately.
Yep. From what direction? Where was Kenneth when he...
in the house. And the two people are stood next to each other. I'm sorry, I don't understand what your difficulty is.
John, I don't think you understand what the difficulty is, because you're not visualizing. Where was Kenneth in the house? Where was Brianna in the house?
Next to Kenneth.
Yes, okay, fair enough. But where was Kenneth? Next to Brianna. Okay, well, then that must be it.
No, but I don't know the geometry of the house.
And that's the point I'm trying to make. We don't know the geometry.
But if you're stood next to the person you love and you shoot a policeman...
But, John, in the same place, maybe there was no other place for her to stand in that given time. Because
I'm next to my wife.
Yes.
I have a gun. I'm confronting people who will shoot back.
Okay.
I must be aware that if the person I love who stood beside me might get shot in the return fire.
Which is true for Kenneth, but what excuse did Brianna have? I mean, did she know that this was going to happen? By the time
that gun was pointing to the door,
and then he
didn't run away.
That's the point I'm trying to make. What makes you think she could?
Free will.
You need space to run away as well, John, not just free will.
Oh, for goodness sake. Stop being a gynocentric cuck.
It's nothing to do with gynocentrism, mate. This has to do with the reality. We don't know, therefore we shouldn't comment.
Okay, no. Come on. Police knock at the door and they say they're police.
Once.
He had a gun.
Yes. You can repeat.
Why have you got a gun? Don't aim it at the police.
John, I'm not saying Kenneth isn't wrong.
No, I'm talking about her now.
But you don't know where she was compared to Kenneth. You don't know what her physical situation was. Could she run away? Could she go somewhere else? We don't know. We have to see a map of the apartment. I think you're correct on that one, Ludicrous. But I do not think that there are no doors in that hallway. Well, it depends. I mean, if they were both in a bedroom, and the bedroom itself isn't big. I mean, you have bedrooms that are barely 2 square meters.
Yeah, but it's not bedroom, is it? It's whatever's up directly accessible from the door.
We don't know where they are compared to the door.
Again, does it matter if you're
Yes!
next to the person you love and you shoot at the police?
Which is saying something about Kenneth, but not about Brianna. That's what I'm trying to say. Whether we like it or not, she is a victim.
No.
Okay.
Sorry, she's not.
And Nick, it was her house, as far as I remember.
Yes, that was the point. It was her house, and she had him in her house, and he had a gun. She has to hold responsibility for that.
Why does she have to hold responsibility for
having him in her house with a gun? Jesus, where?
John, in America, it's quite common for people to have a gun. And Kenneth, as far as I remember, had the rights to... I mean, he was a lawful gun owner.
But there's a knock on the door and he's already has it in his hand pointing at the police.
I'm not saying his behavior was correct. That's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is you're saying she should have done something about him because he had a gun in the house.
No, I'm saying she's not a victim. I didn't say.
Yeah, I think she is a victim. I don't think the police are to blame, but I do think she's a victim.
I don't think she's a victim.
Well, we don't know, because we don't know.
Yes, okay, we don't know, but that's not the same as you saying she's a victim.
No, I said I think she's a victim. There's a difference.
And I think she's not.
Fair enough. I don't know, but that doesn't mean I'm not allowed to say I think she may be a victim.
Well, you actually asserted she's a victim, but okay. And that doesn't stop me from saying.
Yeah, you're right, Michael.
Yeah, it's only me. It's only me. I'm the one who's being awkward here, not two sides failing to disagree.
No, the difference is I'm trying to, how do you say this? Point out that we do not know the lay of the land, so to speak.
Yeah, fine, fine.
Yeah, but that's the whole argument.
No, it's not. You said she's a victim, and I'm saying
no. I said
she's a victim.
I think.
No, you did. No, you did. You said.
I think she's a victim, and well,
okay,
in all fairness,
now you're changing your story.
In all fairness, she is a victim. She didn't fire at anyone, and you can't hold her responsible for having a boyfriend who has a legal.
The conviction of a crime, those partaking in it are not held instantly.
What crime was committed?
Well, that's why they had a search warrant for the drugs.
Yes, but the drugs was not from Kenneth. That was from her previous boyfriend who had been arrested already. And they just thought that they might have found a stash of his drugs at her house. Kenneth, by the way, was not that drug dealer. Yeah, again, Michael, Kenneth was not the drug dealer. I mean, the boyfriend before that was. And she had an on and off relationship with that one. So, yeah, obviously, she's not
the instant reaction of a perfectly upstanding citizen to the police knocking at the door is to pull a gun and fire at them.
I'm not defending Kenneth. But you cannot hold Brianna responsible for the actions of Kenneth.
Right, so who was she a victim of? Kenneth.
Fair enough.
Anybody who is saying Kenneth should be the one held accountable? No one. I
am. Had he not pulled his gun and fired, then nothing would have happened.
Yes. Exactly.
But
he had not shot a police officer engaged.
Yeah, but it's not her fault.
Duty.
But it's not her fault. So Brianna is, whether we like it or not, a victim.
See, again, you're asserting she's a victim.
I am asserting she's a victim now because she is.
And I'm saying she's not a victim.
Okay, what could she have done to prevent this situation from happening at this point in time?
Thank you, Paolo. Exactly.
I can't remember the full name of the dude. I have to look it up. Kenneth something. Where is it? Come on. My fast read. Kenneth Walker. That's the full name. I dare you. Ah. But anyway.
No, I think he meant Kenneth. I think he just meant saying Kenneth was what should get you shot.
Okay. Anyway, so I mean, the dude was a legal gun owner as far as I know. And as far as I know, he wasn't a drug dealer. The warrant was in connection with her old boyfriend, and the police was wondering, because they still had contact, whether the Brianna had a stash of his drugs. That's why they were allowed. That's what the warrant was about. And then, yeah, okay, Kenneth shouldn't have shot. Fair enough. That's absolutely no contest. 100% agree with you on that one. But I don't see what Brianna could have done different to prevent this outcome at that point in time. Obviously, if she never had taken the guy home, then that would have happened. Fair enough. But yeah, I mean, we're talking about that point in time. It seems to me Brianna is the victim of the behavior of Kenneth, not of the police, because the police also responded to the behavior of Kenneth. Which still means that Brianna is a victim. People named Kenneth should always be named Ken or Kenny. Anyway, I did want to go to bed. So, John, any last words for tonight?
No.
All right. In that case, good people of the interwebs, I hope to see you all next time. Next Saturday. Hopefully my wife will be back from Poland by then. Well, we do miss her. And Paolo, Michael, and Ludacris, and Nick, thank you for joining me. There are a few more people out there, but I don't see a lot of chat going on, so I don't know who the other people are. Hopefully till next time, and sleep well.